Hello, everybody. How are you today? Hope everybody is doing well. Thank you for jumping on to the live today. I see a lot of repeats with me today, so thank you for joining in. Okay, all right, so far we have Ohio, Oklahoma, New York, Florida, New Jersey, Connecticut, New Mexico, North Carolina, Wisconsin, and Utah. And we got a Florida, Kentucky, Canada. Hello, everybody. I hope you guys are having a great day so far. It is Friday, April the 10th, 2020. Happy Good Friday. And what a beautiful Friday it is here in North Carolina. The sun is out. It's almost 60 degrees. Beautiful. So yes, hello from Texas, Missouri, South Africa, Long Island, New York. So hello. All right, guys, today we're going to try to type a few things in a pretty bow. But if we don't worry, because I'll be back next week. Lord willing, I'll be back next week, and we're going to continue to work on some more stuff for bead embroidery. I'm going to show you how to some different encasements. I'm going to show you some encasements using rivolis. So I'm going to show you how to use oh goodness, some different border techniques basically. So that is kind of what is going to go on today. Okay, here we go. Let's see. Janine Beverly says, love your earrings. Thank you. These are just hoops that I've done on memory wire. It's just a memory wire, put a little loop on each side and attached an ear wire. 4mm bicones with a size 11 seed bead in between them. Super easy. The rings I have on today, these two right here, are free patterns on my website, offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. The ring is the Interstellar ring, and again, you can find that pattern at offthebeadedpathbeadstore.com. Somebody says, love your lipsticks. Thank you. Today I am wearing Ruby Pop by Clinique. Picked this up when I was over in London. Thought it was fun to try. Okay, am I okay? Because Jason says I'm coming in a little bit blurry. Am I blurry to everybody or no? Because I'm watching it on my computer and it seems kind of clear. So if everybody could kind of let me know real quick if I'm good, if I'm blurry. Okay, somebody says clear. Clear. Okay, so Jason, you may want to jump out and jump back in and see. Yeah, okay, good deal. Yeah, Jason, I would just say jump out and jump back in. Jason is going to help me again today. Go ahead and answer any repetitive questions that we may have, okay? I will try to answer questions as we go. If I don't see one, Jason will tag me in it so that hopefully I will see it because it'll flash up red for me. So let's do a little bit of a recap of our week for those of you who are joining me for the first time. This past Monday, we went and talked about bead embroidery, the threads, the needles, the foundations that you'll need. Tuesday, what did we do Tuesday? Maybe we did stitches. I think it was stitches on Tuesday. Wednesday, we talked about some outlines and how to kind of fill things in. Yesterday, we talked about how to attach 2-hole beads, and we did a really simple encasement around a cabochon. And today, we are going to talk about how we are going to cut it out and do the backings. So again, what we don't finish today, don't worry, we will still talk about next week. Okay, for those of you who are new with me today, every Monday through Friday for the last 4 weeks now, I've been doing bead therapy at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Basically, we get together, we do a project, we talk about it, and we spend some time together because although we are far apart and we have to stay 6 feet apart, we can be together during this time. So Strawberry Vine says, when did you go to London? I was in London November of 2019. So, okay. Real quick, just wanted to kind of remind you, these were 2 really good books that I recommend if you don't have them, that you add to your stash for Bead Embroidery. They are by Jamie Cloud Eakin. You can get these on Amazon.com. You can buy either the digital download version or like an ebook, or you can buy printed versions that the company will print and mail to you. Both of these are really, really good. Rachel Bailey says, is there a different stitch for cabochons with points, i.e. teardrops and triangles? Yes, there are some different stitches. And again, like I said, we will talk about some of that stuff next week. So join me then. So we're going to go ahead and jump in. I have Earl finished. I'm so excited how Earl turned out. He's not what I originally envisioned, but he's awesome looking to me. So I'm going to show you. We're going to take Earl here and we're going to finish him up today. We are going to try and finish up the cabochon that I started with yesterday. And I'm going to show you, I originally was playing with a cross, and I'm going to show you some things that happened in this cross and what I need to do to fix that. So let's talk about a few other things before we get started. I have a little bit of a show and tell here. The first thing is, I think it was from the April 2nd video of 2020. I gave you guys a free pattern on some flower earrings. So I just kind of wanted, I pulled a few of these finished ones off of our Facebook page. So this one is by Darlene Packer. These are some finished earrings that Darlene did, and they're really pretty in those bright colors. And then Chris Anderson, and I'm going to flip it sideways because her picture turned out sideways. But look at what Chris did. She took the same pattern and she added little loops. See if I can get it in here a little bit better for you. She added little loops there to the bottom to add like a fringy look to it. So this was Chris Anderson. Wanted to give a shout out to Susan Cattell. I think I'm saying that right. Susan is from Devon, UK, and girlfriend has been busy making her some helper hearts. You go, girl. I love it. For those of you who have no clue what I'm talking about and what a helper heart is, you can go back to the March 30th 2020 bead therapy, and you will be able to see how to make these hearts. Okay, so again, March 30th, and this was Susan Cattell. And Susan, I hope I got the last name right there. All right, Charlene Birdsell did an awesome bookmark from the April 1st video. So April 1st, 2020. Charlene did not have anything that she could actually make the bookmark out of. So she took the flower and she added a little bit of, I guess, square stitch to it, and then put a little tassel. So she made a little bookmark out of it. How cool was that? So if you want to know how to make a little flower, April 1st, 2020 video there. Now, I also pulled a few more things off of our Facebook group. These are people who had some work in progress bead embroidery pieces that I wanted to show you. So this is Yvette Carter. Yvette is doing a beautiful cardinal, and I'm loving what she's got done so far. She started working on the head there, and you can see that she's doing a really, really nice piece there. Devin LaFave, hope I said your last name right, Devin. She actually has hers pretty much done. She's just going to add the stitching to it, or the edging to it today. So this is Devin's piece, a really, really nice, fun piece. And Melanie Smith also posted on our Facebook group. She did a little owl. Now, Jason was the one who suggested this one. You can see here she's used some little cabochons for the eyes, the nose, and the belly. And she even made little eyebrows or little eyelids for her owl, plus put some little feathers there on his beak. How cute is that? So again, this was Melanie Smith. So you can see now there's some fun little examples and some nice work that people are doing. So thank you for those of you who have posted this, and we'll see if we can get Jason to post a link to the Facebook group so we can get started. All right, so a couple things. Oh, let me see. We'll just go ahead and we'll flip the camera so that way we can get everybody going here. All right, let me get the camera in view here, and so we'll be good to go. No dumpster divers again today, you guys. Since all of this has been happening, all our dumpster divers have kind of taken a break. Okay, let me see if we can get a good look here. Okay, let me get everything tightened up and good to go. We are going to try and play over the weekend with some different cameras and camera views possibly, so you guys will be able to see maybe some different views. Yes, quarantine has taken the fun away. Absolutely. Okay, I know I'm going to get a question. My bead board is from the Bead Wrangler, Ree Stanley. One of my favorite boards. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, so I had somebody question over the weekend. They were confused about what I said about gridding off their bead embroidery. So I actually gridded this one off today. And basically, I just took my ruler, and I can't even get to it right this second, but I took my ruler and I took my white water-soluble marking pencil. This is just a sewing pencil that sewers use to mark. You can also use a white gel pen. But I took my ruler and I ruled off every 1/2 inch going down the piece. Now, you'll notice right here, I have 3 marks, and it's because this is the dead center of my piece, and then these are a 1/2 inch apart. So I took, for this one, this is going to be a bracelet for me. I know I did it at the 2 inches because I'll never wear it to anything thicker than this. So that's why I made this as 2 inches wide. And somebody asked about a button the other day. If you were doing a button, would you cut the shank off? And yes, I actually cut the shank off of my button. So that way, when I glue him to the center, I will know that he is absolutely center, up and down, side to side. And to glue him, gosh, I got to get off this hem. I call everything a hem for some reason. So to glue my button, let's go there. I'm going to take my E6000 glue, and because of the thickness of the button, I'm going to put a little bit thicker on there, but then I will just make sure to get my button centered, and then I would just let this dry, make sure I get it good and pressed down on there, and then I would let it dry completely before I started doing my stitch work. Okay, so that is gridding. I hope everybody kind of understands about the gridding part now. Okay, so I'm going to set that one off to the side. So I want to show you, well, let's go ahead. Let's cut Earl out. All right, so when we cut out, we want to be careful that we don't cut any of the threads here on the back. Kay Bowser said, is that felt or leather? It's neither. This is beading foundation, Beadsmith beading foundation, or I guess you could call it the Lacy Stiff Stuff brand. Okay, so this is the back of Earl. Earl looks bad in the back and a party in the front. All right, so we want to cut him out. But again, we don't want to cut any of these threads out, or these threads, because if you cut that thread, you've cut your beadwork, and you don't want to do that. So the first thing that I do, and I'm going to take a pair of scissors, and I'm just going to flip it around, and you kind of have to keep flipping back and forth to make sure. The first thing I do is I kind of come around, and I'm going to cut semi-close to him. Okay. All right, so I've got a little bit more of the excess gone there. Now, I'm going to flip this over, and I'm just going to kind of pay attention to where I'm cutting. You can flip it either way. Just make sure, be very, very careful that you're not cutting any of those threads on the back as you cut. Some people like to cut from the back, and you can definitely do that. You just, again, have to be very, very careful as to where you're cutting and what you're doing. Okay, because you see right here, you see that thread right there? I'm going to have to be careful that I don't actually cut. Jason says, if Kay Dalton is your mom, she's watching. Yes, Kay Dalton is my mom. Hello, Mom. Thanks for jumping in today. Okay, so I'm just going to continue. I live on the rough side here, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to start cutting. That's just how I roll. That way, if I do cut a thread, I can show you guys how to fix it. Okay, so you want to cut it close because you don't want to have a whole lot of excess here on the outside. You want just a little bit, almost just like a little tiny lip here. So that way, as you work and as you do your edging, you'll have something to kind of grab onto. Now, before I make this cut, I'm going to double check back here, make sure that I'm not going to cut any threads. I've got a little thread sticking up there, so I want to be careful. All right. And then I'm going to come in this way and start trimming. Okay. And again, you just have to be really careful. To me, this takes a lot of patience to cut these out because you just have to be super, super careful. Because I promise you, after you put all the work into your bird or whatever it is that you're doing, you don't want to cut these threads. Okay, so you can see what kind of scissors are you using. These are just regular old scissors I got in the sewing section. You can use any really type of scissors that you want to. Could you apply some bead glue to the edges? No, no, no. You don't want to put any kind of bead glue on the edges. And here's the reason why. The reason why is because if you put bead glue along the edges of your piece, what's going to happen is when you go to do your edging, you are going to actually make it hard for yourself to do the edging because of the fact that you've got to get your needle through where that glue is. So you can see I'm okay right now. And if I need to get in any closer, I can go in and I can work and I can get in closer. Right now, I'm just trying to work around and not cut any of these threads on the back of the piece. And sometimes when I have a piece like this, I'll take like my nippers or something, or I'll take even a pair of smaller scissors and kind of be able to get into those. I normally like to start with a regular pair of scissors and then because they're bigger and leave a little bit more room around the edges, and then I will go back with some smaller scissors. But you'll want to be really careful. I'm just kind of going around and cutting so that way if I cut a thread, I can show you how to fix it. It's not easy, but I can show you. Okay. She said, that happens to me, glue too close to the edge of my second embroidery project. Yes. Why wouldn't you just cut from the back instead of flipping back and forth? I don't understand why you try to cut looking at the front. Because if you just cut the back, you have to be careful because you can also cut your beadwork on the front. That's why I keep flipping it from back to forth or back and front to make sure that I'm not only, you know, I'm being careful not to cut the threads, but I'm not cutting any of my beads as well. Because if my clippers get a hold of one of these beads on the edges, then I could bust that bead and then I've got problems. So that's why I'm flipping back and forth. But you know, you do what you want to do, honestly. You do what makes you feel comfortable. Me, I have broken beads before and I've busted beads before, so that's why I flip back and forth, making sure I've got it. Is it easier to work with an Exacto blade? You could. I know for me, I'd cut my fingers off, so it's better for me not to. So if you feel confident with the Exacto blade and you also know that you are not going to cut any beads or any of your threads, then have at it. Like I said, do what you guys try and you feel comfortable with. Okay, so you can see here, I'm getting a good cut here around the edge. And then I'm just kind of going back in with my smaller scissors here and clipping off any that I don't like. I flip back and forth also as I'm a thread cutter when I really have a scramble to fix that area, usually Loctite. Yes, very, very good thing. Yeah, and if you try it with an Exacto knife and you cut your fingers or anything like that, please don't come after me. Remember, I didn't suggest it. Okay. So I'm liking how my bird's looking. You see here, I've got most of him kind of trimmed down to where he needs to be. And I'm just kind of using these smaller scissors to get in there. Now, if, as you work, you don't like the way that this looks, you can also take, again, I could take my crayon or my colored pencils and I could kind of color in my edges here. Let's see. And you'll get your bead mat dirty. Like you'll have scraps, you know, kind of laying back and forth. And that's fine. You can just chunk them, no worries. Okay. Well, I think I'm going to be okay here. All right, you just don't want a huge lip around the outside edge because then you're going to see more of that lip. So I'm trying to get in here. And like I said, this is a little bit of a tedious process, just making sure that you get it and it looks nice and finished. Because you don't want to put all this work into a piece and then nix it at the very end. Okay. If I can get this one little part right here, I'll be happy with it. Let me see. There we go. Okay. So, got my bird. Got the back of it just like this. Let's see. Somebody says, I only use an Exacto knife when I bead on rawhide because a scissor cannot get the deep pockets when using such a stiff hide. Yes, and Amy says a black Sharpie would work as well to make the edges black to match the edge of the beads. Absolutely. So let's do that if I can find a Sharpie here. So I've got my, and I can do this because my beads are black here around the edge. So I can take... and I can kind of color this edge in like she suggested with the Sharpie marker. I guess if you had multiple colors, you know, of beads on here, you could also do this if you, because, you know, Sharpies come in all sorts of colors now. Oh man, I'm obsessed with all the different colors of Sharpies and colored pencils and oh man, everything that they can come out with just makes me happy. I'm a pen hoarder too, for anybody who knows me. I love to collect pens, like writing pens. Okay, so you can see this is, I'm just coloring this in black to go along. Thank you, Amy, for that suggestion. Very, very good suggestion. Susan Mallory, people are saying, yeah, you too, y'all are pen hoarders. Oh, thank God I'm not alone. I love me some ink pens. Okay, and look how much better my little guy looks. Oh, Earl's gonna look fantastic. Oh, that makes my day. Okay, so I'm gonna make Earl into a pen. Now, where did my pen back go? I got 9,000 things here on my desk today. Okay, when you are going to make a pen or something out of your piece, you're actually going to need to decide where you're going to put it, how it's going to lay, all of that kind of good stuff before we do anything else. So for me, I'm going to pin this probably to a purse that I've got. Let's see. Would it be better if done on dark backing? Yes, probably, Jason, because I use so many dark beads. It would have helped to use a darker backing. But at that point, I thought I was going to use red beads. I didn't know I was going to use all these greens and dark colored beads. So yes. Oh, Sandra, yes, she says, I love the friction pens that have the erasers. Girl, if you like them pens, have you checked out their highlighters yet? They have friction highlighters. I love those. Okay, so I've got my pen. Number one, I'm going to make sure that my pen back works. You would hate to do all this work, get all of it together, and see that your pen back doesn't work. And I'm going to glue, I think I'm going to put my pen back, I think I'm going to put him close up here. Now, you could actually take and you could tack this to the pen back if you wanted to. That would not be a problem. But I actually am going to go ahead. Let me find, what did I do with my stuff here? Okay, so I'm using an Ultra Suede. The Beadsmith Ultra Suede. I'm using Coffee Bean is the color I am going to use today. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to lay my bird on here, and I'm going to go ahead and just kind of trim out the piece. And then I can put this back up. Oh, don't worry, Crystal. I see your message. I got it taken care of for you. Oh, Lord. Sandra, she says, I have not tried those. I will have to try it. Yes, you absolutely have to try those friction highlighters. They are amazing. And the great thing too, if you have like you mark in your Bible or anything like that, it's wonderful because it doesn't bleed through the pages. Okay, so I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to put some glue down first where I'm going to put my pen back. I'm going to leave my pen back open, and then I'm going to lay the pen back down exactly where I'm going to want it on my piece. Now, I'm going to go to a different project because I want to let this sit and dry for just a little while before I do anything with it. So I'm going to sit my pen back to the side for now, and then we're going to talk about what happens if you cut something out and it doesn't look great. All right, so this is a cross that I started maybe a month ago. And I've got it cut out. You can see my threads are pretty close to the edge here. And I don't want to trim any more on that piece. But it looks terrible the way it is, because if I just finished off the edges, you could see all of this white here. And I don't like that. So here's how I'm going to finish this. Everywhere where I see this edging of white, I'm going to take that color and I'm going to fill in that spot with more beads. Okay, so let me lay some of my beads out here. I'm basically going to fill in the holes, fill in any hole that I have, so that way it'll look good finished. Okay, so I'm just going to lay out some beads. Okay, so right here, you can see I'm coming out right here at this green. So I'm going to pick up a green bead. And because of the way my rows are, I'm just going to run the green bead, the needle, straight through the row. And see what happens is it fills in that spot now, and it makes it look a little bit better. So when I come over here to the end, because when I did this, I originally thought that, hey, my lines are pretty straight and they look pretty good. But you can tell once you cut it, they're off a little bit. So if I try to put a bead on here and it doesn't look good, which that one looks okay, but if it didn't look good, I could just take this out and, you know, just pull the thread out and keep on going. So then I would just come up through the foundation right where I need my next little bead to be here. You just want to make sure it's not going to come through the very edge. There we go. I would pick up a purple bead and I would just go through the whole row. And that's how I would just fill in any of these little holes here, and keep going. Now, another thing that I could do once I get these holes filled in along the edges is I could also do what Amy suggested a few minutes ago, and I could take a Sharpie and I could color in some of those little spots where I feel like I might need to hide a little bit there. But I would just go through and fill in the holes. So I hope you're seeing now how to kind of fill in those little holes. Someone asked, is there a pattern? No, I haven't done any sort of pattern for this. This was just something that I drew out and then I just started playing with. This is the same technique that I showed you yesterday in doing this one. Same type of technique to do that center piece. So I think I can put a turquoise one in here. So it would just be, I would work a little at a time. The biggest thing you need to know on the cross, like if you wanted to try and do a cross or something kind of like how I've done it, you would need to, once you got all of your beadwork done on this, you would need to tie the thread off here to start your next side. You couldn't just take the thread and come across because that has to be cut out and you would cut those threads. So you would actually need to finish off the thread and then start a new thread or continue to use what you have and then work each of these side pieces. So I hope that makes sense. The only place where I pretty much used the same thread and I did not have to keep, let's see, okay, I think that one's gonna be good. I didn't have to worry about it cutting was this edge here of the pink, the blue, and the turquoise. That's the only place I used the same exact thread. So that'll kind of give you an idea. If you start cutting out and you see holes, you can go in and you can kind of fill in some of those holes. So I've already filled in most of my holes down here, and you can see how much better that looks compared to that. So that will give you an idea there. So now let me slide some of these beads to the side here. And we're going to talk about finishings on some of the edges. So I've actually went ahead, I have glued on my my foundation, or not my foundation, oh, Lord, my Ultra Suede. I've threaded, or I've glued that on, and you can see I've not glued all the way to the edges, okay? You can see there how I've got that. And you don't want to glue all the way to the edges, because if you glue all the way to the edges, you're not going to have a really hard time getting the needle through both of those layers. So always pay attention to that. I used my E6000 glue. I glued this one yesterday and I've let it sit overnight, so I have a really good adhesion to this piece. Now I'm going to go ahead in just a few minutes, when this has had a little bit longer to dry, I'm going to go ahead and glue this and cut it because I want to show you guys how to do it. You can see I have cut the Ultra Suede to be the same size as the foundation. It's a little jagged around the edges, but that's okay because I'm going to work and I'm going to do that. If you outline the cross first, would that finish the edges better? Yes, it probably could. I was just playing with that piece. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with that one yet. So to do this one, I'm going to use probably some brown thread for this one. And again, if I wanted to, I could do the edging in black, but I want to show you without it. I'm trying to look for the end here. I want to show you how to do it without doing anything special to it, so you can actually see my thread and you will be able to see what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm just going to pull off some thread here. I'm using 1G. You can use, again, whatever you'd like. Just remember, on Monday we talked about needle and thread and foundations and all of that good stuff. Sharon Cochran says, my 8-year-old grandson says hello. Well, hello, grandson of Sharon Cochran. Thank you for watching today. Love it. Couldn't you use a Sharpie of the same color of whatever backing you are going to use, presuming it's one of the colors, those beads on the cross? I could, but I want to fill in some of the holes just so it'll look better. Okay, let me get a needle threaded here. Here we go. Okay. Let me get it going here. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, hello from Rome. Thanks for joining today. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tie a knot in the end here. Okay, and then I'm going to bring it down. And now I'm going to trim it pretty close to the knot, okay? Yes, beading needle goes through the ultra suede. So I'm going to actually separate my two layers at this point. It doesn't matter to me where I start, okay? But I'm going to separate the two layers, and I'm going to take my needle, and I'm going to come up through just the foundation, okay? So not the ultra suede on this first one, just the foundation. And I'm going to pull it through, and you'll see my knot will stop there. And then I'm going to lay the foundation over that knot so that way it hides the knot, or I'll lay the ultra suede down. And there's a couple of different ways that you can do this, and I'm going to use a totally random color here so that you can see. The first one that I like to kind of do is just a basic brick stitch. Okay, so I will, I'm going to add 2 beads to start with. And again, this is not the color I'm going to use on this, and it's not the thread color I'm going to use. I'm just using this for demonstration purposes. Okay, when I come through, I'm going to come through both layers. I'm coming through the ultra suede and through the foundation. Okay, just like that. And then I've come 2 beads width apart from where the thread is and where I've come through the bead. With 1G, do you have any problem with the needle splitting the thread? I personally don't, but I've been using it for quite a few years. Okay, so when you pull it, both of these beads, instead of laying up and down like we want them, they're going to lay sideways. So I'm just going to take my needle, and I'm going to go back up through that first bead again, or that second bead again, so that when I pull it, that will straighten up those beads. Okay? Now, remember, when you pick out your thread to do your piece, you're going to see that thread on the back. So if I was to use, say, this brown thread, I'm going to see it all the way around. So that is something that you want to think about also when you choose your choice of thread to do your backings with, especially, and I'm going to do this pretty far down. This is not, you do not want to do what I'm fixing to do, okay? I'm just doing this for a demo purpose. So I pick up my bead, and say I don't come near the edge. We want to stay kind of near the edge. So if you see right here, you see I stayed really close to the edge, because I want to show you what's going to happen. If you come all the way kind of down here and come through both layers of your piece, and then you come back up through the bead you're just adding, okay, it looks good. It looks exactly what I need there. But then when I turn it over, you see there, I've got all of this thread here that I'm going to see until, you know, whenever. Have you ever had to remove the stone from the foundation? Say you don't like the way it looks. Can you save the stone? You absolutely can, Diane. Now this one, I'm obviously not going to because I've got it encased. But if you glue it normally on a beading foundation, the Beadsmith beading foundation, or I don't know if it will with felt, but the lacy stiff stuff in the beading foundation, it's pretty easy to kind of pull it back off of your piece. The only thing I would say is if you're going to do that, make sure you do it very slowly and very carefully. And you are probably going to have some residue on your stone when you pull it off. Okay, so I've picked up another bead. I'm going to, again, come out a bead width back, stay close to the edging, or to the edge, not the edging. Pull that through, and then go back up through the same bead. Yeah, and it's the same thing, even after you've encased it. Now, after, you're going to have to, of course, cut your beadwork apart to get it off. But yes, you can save you can save your cabochon. But that would mean starting over. Okay. And so the whole way around, all I'm going to do is I would just pick up one bead, come through both layers. Again, stay close to the edge here. And then come up through the bead you just add. Okay, Judy Sparn says, do you have to use seed beads for the edging? You don't have to, but they look really nice. If you wanted to, you could also take and just do like a whip stitch edging where you would take it and you would just come through the layers. But again, you'd have to be careful and pay attention as to your thread color and your foundation color and all of that stuff. If you wanted to do like a little whip stitch edging or something like that, you could do that, but you'll see, you can see thread and you see the stitches, okay? So the seed beads just make it look a little more finished. There's no rule that says you have to use them, but it just looks more finished because, I mean, you can see there how finished this looks compared to this, okay? What about bigger beads? Yep, you can use bigger beads if you want to. You're going to see more thread than you would normally see instead of using seed beads, but you could do that. And you could see, pay attention because you can see there my thread bridges, and that's because I used that brown bead. So you'll want to pay attention to that. If you tend to go over on the backing with the thread, you can add an embroidery around the brick edge to hide or embellish. Yes, you can. Just for a little demo here, and I'm going to just kind of start back over again here. Because like I said, I'm just doing this for demo purposes. But I need to add a couple of beads here. Okay. So if you go around, and you've done your edging and you want to add something else to the edging, so you just don't like how it looks, or you don't have the correct thread color and you see the thread, you can also quote unquote embellish the edge if you want to. So I'm gonna have an even amount of beads, so 2, 4, 6. Okay, so I could always take, if I wanted to, I could take and I could pick up 2 or 3 beads. I'm going to do this purple. Whatever you want. And I could take and I could come down through the next bead there. And you'll see it makes that little peacoat over it. And then I would come up through the next bead. And for me, I don't like to do the same thing over and over. So then this next one, I might just do 1 or whatever, but you could do 3. And then you'd work the whole way around, adding the little peacoats to give you a different looking edge. Okay, I watched your video on Monday and you said you could use any thread. Does regular sewing thread works? No, and I think we actually talked about that in that specific video, because sewing thread, especially if you're putting crystals on, is not going to be strong enough to hold onto the beadwork. Let's see. How do you get them to lay like tires and not donuts? That's just what I was showing you, going back through them again, and I'll do that again. Okay, so you can see if I went all the way around, then that would give me even a different edging so that you can see how that will be. Okay, Pam says, thank you for doing the seed bead embroidery lessons. I had started doing one, but cut the exact shape for the bracelet. Will that be an issue? Yes and no. Like for mine, I've cut this just in a rectangle because I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. I'm not one to plan out what I'm going to do. I like to do it a little bit at a time. So you would want to think about that. So if you're going to do the exact edging, you're just going to have to be really, really careful as to how you're adding your beads, and you're really going to need to plan the piece out. So let me come back through here again. And again, I'm just using this piece as a demo, so I'm going to cut all this out afterwards. How would you make this into a pendant? Well, first you would have to do the this all the way around, and then you would have to make a bail out of seed beads to hang at the top. And that is something that I will go over next week, because I know I'm not going to have enough time to do it today, because I would literally have to do this whole thing. So this weekend I will work and get this completely finished around the edges so that you can see next week how we would actually make this into a finished pendant. So somebody says how to get them to lay like donuts. So I come through the ultra suede and the foundation, and then I just come straight up through the same bead that I'm adding. Doris, if you go back to yesterday's live, we talked a lot about this pendant and the name of it and all that kind of good stuff. Okay, so again, you can see I'm just going through, pulling the bead all the way through and coming in this direction. Okay, now I wanted to show you really quick, when you get all the way around, this first bead here will still be wonky right here. You need to fix that. So here's how we fix that. And I'm just going to stick my needle all the way over here so that I can come out of this green bead. Yes, Diane, give me a minute. Everybody just give me a minute. Okay, so I'm coming out of the green bead. Let's say this purple bead here wasn't here, and I'm coming out of the green bead. In fact, I'm going to bust some of these. I'm going to go ahead and... Okay, this way you can see it a little better. Okay, so I'm coming out of the green bead. And let's say this green bead was the last bead on my row. Okay, if I want to make sure my beads are together and I don't have a lot of width in between them, I would come down through the pink bead. Okay, if I'm coming out of the green bead and the green bead is the last one for the row, I would come down through the pink bead, back up through the green bead. Okay. And now that puts those two beads together and it connects the piece. Now I'm going to go down through the pink bead again, and then I would go through the foundation, both pieces, and then up through that pink bead. And that will basically just kind of, everything is now connected. Whoops, let me get that out. Everything is connected and everything is going to look good. Once you get them connected and you're ready to have this done, you are pretty much good to go. You can make it into whatever you want. You should suggest that when you bust seed beads, you do it over a trash can. The broken pieces can be sharp and will hurt your bare feet if they fall onto the floor. Yes, these are all things I'm aware of. Thank you for everyone for your suggestions. This is just, it's a live video and we don't, I'm trying to do what I can do here. Okay, so somebody asked how to make this into a pendant. So just so that I can kind of show something really quickly, you have a couple of different options. Option one is I could do a peyote stitch off of this brick stitch. So to do that, and you'd have to make sure your piece is centered, basically. I would pick up one bead and come down through the next bead. And then one bead, and you could either come back this way or just come down through this next bead here. Okay, it's going to put them a little bit further apart than I like them to be if you do it that way. Okay, and then I'm just going to stitch back around so I can come out of this first bead that I added. Okay, so I will come through my bead here. And now you could make it as wide as you wanted to. I'm just going to do this real quickly here. So I basically just pick up a bead and come through. And again, you can make this as wide as you want to. And I actually have, which video did I do this on? Oh, let me think about when did I do this one? Oh gosh, I can't remember right now. Maybe it was the Interstellar pendant where I showed how to do the odd count peyote. So I've got my 3 beads here. I've got my new bead, and I'm gonna come back through the 2 beads at the diagonal. Okay. And then I'm leaving it loose so you can see here. Then I would pick up 1 bead. I would come through the middle bead and the bottom bead. Okay. And I think I showed this more further in detail in the cross, the Interstellar cross that I just did a video on back a little while ago. Okay. So then I would come up through the top bead. Pick up 1 bead, go straight through. You pick up 1 bead, and I'm going to go through the 2 beads here. Pick up 1 bead, and this time I go through the 2 beads at the diagonal. Okay. If I was going to make this into a bell, I would probably switch over to Fireline to do the bell with. The 1G and even the DuraThread, any of that kind of leaves it a little bit more loose. So that is the thing to think about there. So if it was me and I was going to make this into a bell for my pendant, I would probably switch over to that Fireline. Oh, Miss Joy popped on. Hey, girl. Joy, who just popped on, does some wonderful makeup tutorials on her Facebook page. She sells a makeup, and she does some awesome makeup tutorials. So if you ain't friends with Joy, you need to be to see her beautiful makeup that she does. Okay, so you can see I'm just building a strip of odd count peyote. And again, I could have added another bead and made it even count, whatever you kind of want to do. But I would just continue to build it until it's big enough to go over whatever I'm going to put it on. Okay. And so you would kind of want to know that beforehand. You could also glue a bell to the back of your piece. There are a lot of options that you could do. You don't have to be stuck with one option, okay? So what I'll try to do over the weekend is I'll finish this off, like the piece completely, and then I'll do an even count bell so that way you can see how the even count is done and all that kind of stuff. But like I said, you can see it's a little loose here using the 1G. So if I was going to do this and have it completely finished, I would use the Fireline to do this bell with. And you would start the bell wherever you want it to be on your outline. You could pretty much do it wherever you want it. But then it would just be a matter of doing it however long you want to. And you would have to keep folding it over to see how big you've got that you can put it in. Where is, well, I'm looking for my awl here. Oh, here it is. So you would pretty much need something to be able to see what you could put it on. So at this point, you can see it's only about a 1/2 inch. And if I fold it over, you can see only about the size of the awl is going to fit in there. So that is something. Joy Jefferson, Andrea, Amy Werbus says, how do I find you on Facebook? There are several other Joy Jeffersons, so y'all may want to hit each other up and talk about that. So you would basically just continue, fold it over, and stitch it until you would have that. So there are some really, really easy ways to do this. Now, I want to go ahead and show you this one. And I'm going to show you the technique of making them turn up like tires rather than donuts. I'm going to show you that on Earl here. So there is, for those of you who just jumped in, here is Earl finished, basically. All right. I'm going to lay Earl down onto the Ultra Suede, and I'm going to kind of use, you can use a pen, you can use a knife, whatever you've got. That Exacto knife, just be careful. What size seed beads did I use for the edge of Earl? I used size 11s. So right where this is going to lay down over the pin back, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut a little slit at each little edge here where the pin back is going to be. So when I lay this down, and remember, make sure the pin back is up, okay? I'm going to stick the pin back through this side. And so that way, when I press this down, my pin back is now there and covered up, and it's going to look much, much better once I get Earl finished than having this glued to the back of the Ultra Suede. Okay, so take my E6000 glue, and without taking the pin off, or without taking that off, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start putting some glue. Now remember, you do not want to glue all the way to the edge, okay? So I've got the glue just right here, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of press his head down, and then I'm going to come here. Now, I can take and I can squeeze some glue down in here where the pin back meets the Ultra Suede, okay? So don't be afraid to do that. And then again, I'm just going to go through, not going to the edge, going to put my glue there, and you can see. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to be a little bit more careful right here around the edge, because you see I need to put some glue right there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lay this Ultra Suede down and kind of press it together. Okay, and then I'm going to kind of do it like this. And right here, just on this one little edge, I'm going to put just a little bit of glue because I want to make sure that that edge stays down. Now, yes, I'm going to have a little bit of a harder time getting the needle through right there, but it's important that I have some glue right there at that edge where the pin back's going to be at. Okay, so I have the pin back cut in there. It looks good. Now I'm going to go ahead and close it so I don't prick my finger, and I'm going to go ahead again and just close the pin back. Make sure the pin back closes like I want it to. And then I'm just going to take and I'm going to do this around Earl. Margie says, love your tip with the awl. I busted a bead out and cut my thread. Wasn't a happy camper. Yes, girl, I know. Rachel says, hi from Saudi Arabia. Awesome. Thanks for joining us today. So I make sure I've got the glue all kind of pressed in good there for Earl. On a normal day, I would sit and I would let this dry. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trim around. And the Ultra Suede is a lot easier to trim because you don't have to pay attention to the threads. You don't have to be worried about where my threads are and where my threads aren't, because you are just gluing on this backing. And if it's not 100% beautiful when you cut it, it's okay, because we're going to cover up some of the stubs along that back. Now, I will tell you, the biggest thing that I think about when I'm cutting this, you want to cut it to the same size as the foundation that you have. You can leave a little excess, but don't leave too much excess of the Ultra Suede. You pretty much want it flush with the others. Okay, and you can see there, look right there. See, I got a thread sticking out right here. So I'm going to make sure he's tucked in. Yeah, you could definitely use a toothpick to put glue into the tight spots. Absolutely. That's a good suggestion. Very, very good suggestion there. I love everybody's participation in these videos because it gives other people suggestions of some things that they could do. Just like with the black Sharpie marker, that was a great suggestion there. And the toothpick's a good suggestion. Everybody's suggestions have been really, really well. So now you can see I have my bird with the backing on it and my pin is there. So it'll be ready to use when I am ready to do whatever I'm going to do with it. Now, same thing. I'm going to, let me get my thread here. Gonna make me a knot at the end of my thread. Pull this through. And the same thing, it doesn't matter where I start. I'm just gonna start somewhere. I'm gonna pull the backing or the Ultra Suede back, and I'm gonna stick the needle just through the foundation, and I'm gonna pull it through. And again, I do that so that the knot will be hidden in between my layers there. Okay, so let me figure out what color I'm gonna do here real quick, guys, because I want it to actually be, I think I'm gonna use, I don't know. If I don't like it, I'm gonna take it out, so it's not gonna matter. So I'm going to pick up one bead. No, I'm going to pick up two, I think. Do my two. Okay, I'm going to come through the foundation, through the backing and the foundation. Amy says, side note, E6000 is good to repair soles of shoes because it's flexible. That's awesome. Okay, so I'm hoping you can see this good here. I've got my two beads on. To make them look like tires, instead of going back up through the beads, now I'm going to work in this direction. You go through the bead like this, okay? So normally I would be going this direction. I'm going to go this direction through the bead. Okay. And right now, you can see they lay like tires rather than down like a donut. Okay, and then we're just going to continue that. Pick up one bead. I'm coming right next to where I just added those two beads. Come through both pieces. And then again, instead of coming up through, I'm going to grab a hold of that bead and I'm going to come through it the other way so that they will lay on their sides rather than laying up and down. The thing when you do this specific type of edging is you have to be careful. Number one, because it's easy to get your thread caught. But number two, when you get the whole piece done, you need to go back through the beads again, just going straight through them with your needle. So that way, it will kind of pull every bead together and make it look a little bit more finished. Okay, so you can see there how that's looking. And let me see if I can scroll back down. So I think Susan asked us maybe. Let me go back. Yeah, I think maybe Susan asked us how they look like tires. So this is how, or no, Diane, I see it. So Diane, I hope this shows you, or you're seeing now how to make them look this way. And you can see it's a nice finish along the edge. It does look different than this, but it's a nice finish, a completely nice finish. And you don't have to worry necessarily about your types of, your colors of thread or whatever, because your thread's pretty much going to be hidden in between our beads here. Okay. And if you guys, if you will hang on just a minute, somebody says, what is the group? So I will try to pull it up and link it for you real quick, post a link into it. You can see I'm kind of digging that brown around the black, and I think I'm going to stick with it. This is a gold-lined crystal Toho seed bead that I carry. So I am, I'm liking it. Oh, good. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate that. Would it be easier to do a bell from the tire look? Yeah, you could definitely do the bell from the tire look as well. I don't think you could go wrong with either one of them. And I think it honestly is just going to be what you like the look of as you work. If you'll give me a second, I'll show you guys. This is actually what I'm going to show you is a Gayle DeLuca pattern. Gayle is at the White Box in Knoxville, Tennessee. Now you can see I don't like the way this bead's kind of sitting. I went a little bit too far out. So to fix that, I'll take the needle off and then just pull that bead out so that I can fix it. And then I would just continue to work. So let me grab my purse really quick. I actually like to do some of these bead embroidery pieces and attach them to like my purse and different things like this. So here is a purse I got when I was in Prague this past year. And Gayle came up with this pen, and I love it. And you can see I did the tire edging on this pen, and I did these tire edgings here with an 8. A size 8 seed bead here along the edge. And you can see Gayle kind of pulled in all these different techniques. We used a 2-hole bead. This is a 2-hole cabochon. We've got some of the what are those called? Our little 0 beads and things like that. And then half Tilas, there's all sorts of things. And then I even took and I put mine and my husband's little initials here at the bottom. And I left it without beads in between it because she had already done the coloring for it. Can we see the back of... well, I don't want to take it off because it pokes my leather, but you can see there I used like a teal colored foundation and use that same color stitching there, so you can kind of see that. And then we used a little drop bead here at the bottom to make the point part, so you can see it looks really, really nice. And I think again, this is a Gayle DeLuca pattern, and you can get if you'll contact the White Box in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm sure Gayle probably has some cool kits or an instant download pattern that you can purchase, so just be aware of that as well. So yeah, you would just continue and just keep on. And this kind of feels like it takes you a while to do the edging, but it is the difference between a nice finished piece and a piece that looks unfinished. Okay, so it's all about just making sure you're happy with it, because again, if you're going to put all this time into a piece, you want to make sure that you're happy with it. Okay. So again, where I'm at here, I'm just going to take and come through and try that stitch again. And the good thing about the tire, and I'll show you the back of Earl here so you can see, you don't see a lot of the thread, but two, I'm using a brown thread because I'm using this dark brown backing. So you can see there with the back how different it looks. So before I get off, does anybody have any questions about some edgings that I can answer real quick? If I can't answer it today, I promise you I'm going to work next week on doing some more of these videos. So maybe if I don't get it answered today, we can get it answered next week. Okay, and you can see there, I've got a little bit of a knot, so I need to get that out. Is Ultra Suede the best backing? Honestly, I think it's going to be whatever you have on hand, especially if you want to finish your piece. I like the Ultra Suede just because I like the feel of it. It's very, very, very soft. So I just personally like that, but everybody kind of gets their own and decides what they like. I've got sheets of felt downstairs that if I did not have any Ultra Suede, I would probably use those sheets of felt as well. You could use leather. There's all sorts of things that you could use as your backing. You could picot around the edge. Yes, absolutely. I'm using some fabric that is a crushed velvet feel. Well, there you go. That's awesome. Okay, so what I'm going to do over the weekend, I'm going to go ahead and finish this around Earl, so you can see Earl finished. I'll try to post him in the group as well. I'm going to take all of this off and actually finish this so you can see. I'll show you how to do the bail off of this, and then I'm going to show you, hopefully once everything is done here, I'll show you this finished one as well. So I'm going to flip the camera around. Everybody just hold out for one moment here. And let's see. Oh, there we go. Alrighty. Okay, so I hope that you guys learned something new today. I hope that you enjoyed the video today. And most of all, guys, I hope that it was just an hour, 30 minutes to an hour spent away from the world of COVID-19. I hope that you have a fabulous Good Friday. For those of you who have, this weekend we have Easter. So whether it's about Jesus Christ or it's about the Easter Bunny, whatever it is for you, I hope that you have a fabulous, fabulous Easter. And Lord willing, and I'm still here Monday, we will continue with some more bead embroidery and encasements. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys make my day. I love this time with you. And again, have a great day and a great weekend. Bye.